Hey everybody, welcome to another video episode of What a Hell of a Way to Dad. It is Francis again with you. I am excited to be doing this video episode, even though it means that my gaming group canceled tonight. That's fine. Rather than going and spending time with my wife, I am out here making a video. It's fine. She's would rather I probably stay out here. So I'm excited to come to you guys because we have kind of... So this isn't part of my thing. This is Beth's thing. This is my wife's thing. She has a very popular travel blog. It was much more popular about 10 years ago when we were regularly updating it and doing a lot of moving around and traveling and everything. Specifically, it was some of the weirder things, right? So it is called Craves, Caves, and Graves. It does exist. She's resurrecting it and she's bringing it back. She's really excited about doing more writing again. And I'm excited because it means I get to be a part of it. The way that we actually, our first real date was going to a lead mine in Bonne Terre that is turned into it was an old lead mine. And then it stopped being a lead mine and it filled with water, and now you can go diving there. We didn't go diving, but they have, it's a lead mine. You can tour a lead mine. That was our first date, and it's kind of been that way ever since. So she's bringing this back because social media. I hate to be the elder millennial about it, but I'm really glad that I didn't lean 100% on social media, especially now that it's really collapsing in a lot of ways. Instagram and Facebook and Twitter are all completely useless, and Blue Sky is great for posting, but if you're doing business, it doesn't do that great. But you can still, I have an email list. I have a website. I've maintained a website for a really long time. My wife maintained a website for a really long time, and I feel like websites are kind of coming back. I know, people were on Substack, and I didn't really understand that because you could just do all of that, but have a website that goes to your own name if you wanted to. So I don't understand why people weren't doing that in the first place, but whatever. So her travel blog is coming back. I know one thing that we recently did for Mother's Day, we spent Mother's Day at the Bellefontaine Cemetery in St. Louis, up in northern St. Louis. Beautiful cemetery. It's an arboretum. They encourage people to come check it out. Phenomenal mausoleums there. Some of the Bush family is buried there, the Lemp family. The Brown Shoe Company, who the St. Louis Browns were named after. There were two brothers, and they have mausoleums across the road from one another, and one of them is hexagonal and one of them is round, and it's a very cool place to go. So she did a blog on that years ago, and she's updating. We're wanting to update a lot of the stuff we did. So now we have a vehicle that we can actually kind of do long distance trips with. So what we had beforehand, we had our Nissan Leaf, which is an all electric car, but it's 2015, and ranges on cars back then were not great. So you could, it has on a good day, if you're not driving on the highway, it's got 60 to 70 miles in it. And of course, you can't just go somewhere and top it off. We also had a gas car, but the gas car was an older car that was not very comfortable. Nobody liked being in it. We didn't drive it very much because we both work from home, so it just kind of sat out on the street, and it did get driven and moved around and everything, but not as much as it should have to really kind of keep it fresh. So we finally got, and let me go ahead and start up our slideshow here. That's it. We're starting the podcast slideshow hour here. It's not going to take an hour. This is the van that we got. This is a Chrysler Pacifica. It's a hybrid and a plug-in hybrid. So you can plug it in and get 30 miles of electric range, and then it kicks over to the gas. And we've noticed that on the gas, it doesn't really it gets really good mileage. It's a 2021. This is the fanciest, nicest car that I've been in a long time. I've never even been in cars this nice. It's got when we rent a car, we'll go somewhere and rent a car, look at all these cool features and all this safety. Time to get back into my little shit box here. We're mature adults at this point. We're middle-aged. We should have a nice car. So we have a nice car, and we're very excited about it. We're going to take it to Chicago next week for an Irish dance competition. We're very excited. I love Chicago. I absolutely adore Chicago. One of my favorite cities to go and visit. Chicago-St. Louis rivalry is not really a thing because we all know Chicago is the better city. It's just, we're St. Louis. We gotta scream at somebody, I guess. I don't know. Chicago's beautiful, and we're looking forward. We're gonna gas it up, and we're going to juice it up with the electrical, and then we're gonna see what our mileage is getting out to Chicago. And we're all very excited. I'm excited. My wife's excited. Her father's excited. I'm gonna get the trip report to my father as well. It is very much a dad-coded thing, the mileage, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it is with my father at least, and why my dad did it is because my dad is a math guy, and any excuse to do math and measure something and then look at the measurements and then think, how can I affect the measurements here? That's what he's doing. Like during a road trip, like me, 12-year-old me, my father and I we drove to New York City. And it's not like we drove straight through. We went to Niagara Falls, we went to Cooperstown, we stopped off at all kinds of places. But I'm a 12-year-old boy. My company is only as entertaining for as long as it can be. Luckily, that car had a cassette deck in it, so we listened to some cassettes, some comedic cassettes. My dad was not very much a music person, but he did like to listen to James Thurber. So James Thurber and Lake Wobegon tapes. That's what explains all of this to you. I hope. Anyway, so that rambling story leads us all back to this van is pretty awesome. Dads love to do math. So my father on that road trip was probably just, trying to figure out how can I affect the mileage on this as I go from point A to point B. I like to think, because when I drive the electrical car, sometimes I always do that. I'm always driving, seeing how can I affect the outcome here. When I go to my parents in the Leaf, my parents, we can get to and from my parents easily on a full charge, but it really has to be a full charge. And if you're driving Highway 70, as you should be driving Highway 70, which is between 70 and 75 miles an hour, you're going to wear that battery down pretty quick. So I always like to see, what can I do to affect it? Drafting a semi turns out really good at getting, not too close, not danger close drafting, but, you can get a windbreak there, and that really matters when it comes to an electrical car. So that's just some shit that dads love to do. So this is the van. It is awesome. We all find it very comfortable. We have yet to haul anything large in it, but I'm looking forward to next month. We're going to be doing a Pride Fest in Chicago. So it'll be the first time that we load this new van up with all of our gear, and then actually put all of us into it. That was another thing. We couldn't take all of us to an event in one car. I always had to take the gas car. Especially if it was somewhere that the electric car would not get to. Like I did one out in St. Charles when my wife and kid were out of town. I did one in St. Charles. They would not have been able to go out there in the electric car and make it back. Unless they wanted to take an hour and a half to get from point A to point B, which nobody wanted to do. So this car eliminates that as well. But we are going to be doing a lot more traveling. I know that for my wife, for her birthday, which is coming up in June, she wants to go to Merrimack Caverns. We are big fans of caves. Here, I still got this up for you. You can. We're big fans of caves. We're big fans of show caves, especially. I love the idea of a guy who finds a hole in the ground and is like, I bet I can charge people $10 to come in here. It happens all the time, all over Missouri. There's dozens of them: Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee. Really, this whole Ozarkian kind of region. Arkansas has a lot of caves too, and people find a hole in the ground. They're like, "Fucking, let's put a walkway down there." And there's some of them that are great. So, Silver Dollar City, out in Branson, Missouri, has Marvel Cave. And Marvel Cave is probably Marvel Cave is my favorite one. Because Marvel Cave has an insane story to it. It is literally a hole in the ground that goes down to a shale pile that like shit has just been falling into this hole for centuries. And it's all fallen into the hole, and somebody's like, huh, that's a big cave. I'm going to stick a ladder down there and charge people $10 to come down here. Or whatever it was in $1800s. So insanely dangerous with the candles and shit like that. So when you go down to it now, there's like a 200 and something stair, like, landings. It's not a spiral, but it goes into a circle to go down. It gets you down to the bottom. You go further and further into the cave, and then you come out onto another side of the cave, and there's a funicular that takes you up out of the cave. So we love a funicular, and it's a counterweight funicular. So it's got two of them, and they go like that up and down the mountain. It's phenomenal. I love it. So that's probably my favorite one. Other ones that we love, like I said, Merrimack Caverns. My wife's wants to go to Merrimack Caverns for her birthday. Merrimack Caverns is a favorite of ours as well because it is the most like show cave of show caves. It is the most like. Look, every state has like an insane family that has way too much money in it, probably multiple ones, right? And there's like the ones that, run the cities, and there's the ones that run the government, and then there's the ones that run sideshows off of Highway 44. The family that owns Merrimack Caverns is... They're insane, but in like the best possible way. Like if you were going to have a lot of money, like one of them ran for governor of Missouri. His name was Les, and it was just a picture of him, and it said "Less is more," and that's it. He did not win, surprisingly, but it seems like that family is always kind of rolling somebody out to run for something. I don't know. Maybe that's the way they keep the one fail son out of the cave operations. But Merrimack Caverns is a favorite because it's got the Jesse James hideout in it, like a small wooden cabin that they put inside of here because like they claim that Jesse James, after robbing a train, came to this cave to split the loot. Now, you might be thinking, Francis, there's not a fucking train anywhere near that cave. That sounds insane. Isn't this in the middle of nowhere next to a creek with no roads in the 1800s going out to it? And in fact, nobody other than maybe the very local populace knowing about it. Yes. Now, if you would also say to me, well, Francis, when you go into the cave and you go to the actual loot rock, which has two mannequins of Jesse James and one of maybe Frank James, his brother, ready to pull because they hear a sound. But when you go through and they tell you about how this chamber was flooded before they bought the cave, and then they drained the thing out, and then they're like, oh, but Jesse James absolutely split his loot there at one point in time. Sure. It's fine. They actually one time had a man live inside of the cave and claim to be Jesse James. Jesse James was never killed. And there's a Jesse James wax museum that's nearby, also owned by the family, that is dedicated to the whole conspiracy that Jesse James never died. I've talked about this a lot. I get very excited about talking about the Jesse James is Alive Museum because we used to also have the Elvis is Alive Museum. Now, Jesse James is Alive Museum was actually the Jesse James Wax Museum, but there literally was a place called the Elvis is Alive Museum. It unfortunately closed. It was turned into a church. It had a big Elvis outside singing, and then when a church bought it, they put a cross on Elvis's back, and it has since gone. But it was owned and operated. I went to it. Me and a buddy of mine did a across Missouri road trip. We were going up to Atchison, Kansas, and we were like, let's stop at all the weird fucking places. And it was like we both knew it was like the Elvis is Alive Museum. Let's go check it out. It was insane, but in a fantastic kind of way. So, I'm sorry. There's a lot of Missouri weirdness really gets me. But so anyway, Mark Twain Cave up in Hannibal. That one's really great. Let's see, Indiana Caverns. That's one that we recently went to when we were going to or from Louisville. One direction or the other. All really great, wonderful caves as you go. There's one that has a little cart that you drive through somebody drives you through. It's really like they talk about all this cave restoration. We're making sure that this cave can is safe and maintains its natural splendor. But the thing is, a cave is just a hole in the fucking ground, And caves a lot of times are in the middle of nowhere. So if you just leave a cave alone and maybe like, I feel like going through and pouring concrete and moving like pontoon boats to and from places inside of a cave, because it's not like there's a back door, like, just open up the loading dock door and then you can bring it in here. I feel like that does more damage to a cave than like you could ever have for just like, I don't know, a couple of jackasses that go in there and like write their, names on the wall or something. I'm just saying, poured concrete probably does a lot of damage to these. Another one of those things that I just, when we eventually, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years from now, when the future archaeologists are trying to figure our shit out, and they're just like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? So this weekend, we went to the Weldon Springs nuclear waste dump. Nuclear, that's an unkind way of saying it, but there definitely is nuclear waste at this place. So Weldon Spring is an area that's it took us about 45 minutes to drive there from South City. So it's not like far out in the middle of nowhere, but it is, not necessarily on the beaten path. I will tell you, however, there's an Army Reserve base. So I was out here a lot. There's a training facility, and as a training facility, I say that term very loosely. They had some fields that if you needed to drive some shit around and do training in, you could. And they had a shooting range if you needed to do qualifications. But, and it had an Army Reserve, like, actual center out there that was really nice. It was new, and it was very... I spent my entire Army Reserve career in a building that was built in, like, the 70s, and, like... Those buildings are built to fucking last, no doubt, but they suck. They're gross. So this interpretive center actually I think was built sometime in the last 10 to 15 years, because when I went to this place, I believe it was in 2009, it was not this building. This building is really nice. It has the interpretive center, but it also has a lot of classrooms and meeting spaces and things like that. I really love this trend that I've seen with a lot of newer federal construction, centers like this and sites like this, integrating, learning and development and, bringing STEM and STEAM stuff in and all, they're very, very good at it. I'm worried about a lot of that going away. And looking at this picture too, you can see it looks kind of raggedy, but this is all prairie restoration, and they have nature walks and everything. They have this butts up to the Katy Trail, which is a like 240-mile biking trail that runs through Missouri and I think Illinois, and I'm not too sure where else because I don't ride bicycles. That's silly. So they have trails that come through. It's a really nice, beautiful area, and you'll see why, because there's really not. They have a big area that they have stewardship over. This is not this is not necessarily a spot of, we're trying to do anything. This is as long as the United States government exists, this facility will maintain stewardship over this land, because aforementioned nuclear waste dump, which we will get to. But because it is just partially it's a nuclear waste dump and partially it's an Army Reserve Center training area, they're like, look, we can just, let it grow wild. And have a whole habitat thing going on. It's really nice. So this was a fantastic new building that we got to check out. They had some things, some parts of the interpretive center that were not there in the last one. They have a whole room that's dedicated to the workers, the people who worked at Mallinckrodt, who were refining uranium on the site. They talk about the health problems that were present in the area because the remediation of this place didn't end until 2001. So there's a high school that is like less than a mile from this place. And there's a lot of kids that grew up in this area, and we'll talk about it in a minute. I'm going to read to you guys from the Department of Energy's website about just the basic rundown history here. But there was a lot of uproar about that, which I feel like they do a little bit more justice here. But so this is from the energy.gov about Weldon Spring Site Interpretive Center. The Weldon Spring site is located in St. Charles County, 30 miles west of St. Louis. The site comprises two geographically distinct U.S. Department of Energy-owned properties, the former Weldon Spring Chemical Plant and former Weldon Spring Quarry. In 1941, the U.S. government acquired 17,232 acres of rural land in St. Charles County to establish the Weldon Spring Ordnance Works. In the process, the towns of Hamburg, Howell, and Tunerville and 576 citizens of the area were displaced. From 1941 to 1945, the U.S. Army manufactured TNT and DNT. DNT is a lower form of TNT at the Ordnance Works site. 4 TNT production lines were situated on what was to be the chemical plant. These operations resulted in nitro-aromatic contaminations of soil, sediments, groundwater, and some off-site springs. Following a considerable amount of explosive decontamination of the facility by the U.S. Army, part of the area was transferred to the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission in 1956 for construction of the Weldon Springs chemical plant. The plant converted processed uranium ore concentrates to pure uranium trioxide, intermediate compounds, and uranium metal. A small amount of thorium was also processed. The uranium refining process generated waste byproducts called raffinate. The raffinate was stored in 4 raffinate pits located in the chemical plant property. Uranium processing operations resulted in contamination, which in some locations commingled with contaminations left from the explosive production during World War II. So all the nuke stuff and all the TNT stuff is all getting into a good slurry in the ground here. The Weldon Spring Quarry was mined for limestone aggregate used in the construction of the ordnance work. The U.S. Army also used the quarry for burning waste from explosive manufacturing and disposal of TNT-contaminated rubble during ordnance works operations. These activities resulted in the nitro-aromatic contamination of the soil and groundwater at the quarry. In 1960, the U.S. Army transferred the quarry to the AEC, which used it from 1963 to 1969 as a disposal area for uranium and thorium residues, both drummed and uncontaminated, from the former chemical plant. So yes, all those drums, barrels full of nuclear waste, yeah, that's what we had going on here. Uranium processing operations ceased in 1966, and the AEC returned the facility to the U.S. Army. AEC and subsequently DOE managed the site, including the U.S. Army-owned chemical plant, and caretaker status from 1968 to 1985. Caretaker activities included site security oversight, fence maintenance, grass cutting, and other incidental maintenance. In 1984, the U.S. Army repaired several buildings at the chemical plant, decontaminated some of the floors and ceilings, and isolated some equipment. By 1985, the U.S. Army transferred full custody of the chemical plant to the Department of Energy. So, just kind of an aside here. They manufactured the TNT, and then they converted it to manufacturing uranium. Yellow cake uranium was coming through here. Once they decided to stop doing that, all these buildings and everything still existed, and they just didn't do anything with it. They put a fence up around it. They maintained the grounds, as necessary. They mowed the lawns, and that's about it. But really, they knew that this is a big area that somebody probably needs to clean up at some point. And the thing is that it's not like because of what it is, because everything is going to be contaminated with TNT and with radiation. You gotta do something, and you can't just go knock the buildings down and drag it to the dump. You have to do something. So it comes to the cell, as we're going to talk about in the at Weldon Spring, which is what contains the nuclear, the waste and everything. So we're gonna get to all of that. I've got some pictures of that for you guys to kind of get an idea of the scale of it. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, placed the quarry and former chemical plant areas on the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act National Priorities List, the CERCLA NIPL. Don't let me do acronyms. In 1987 and 1989, respectively, remediation at the Weldon Spring site was administratively divided into 4 operable units: the chemical plant, the quarry bulk waste, the quarry residuals, and the groundwater. The southeast drainage was remediated and documented through the Engineering Evaluation Cost Analysis Program. Remedial activities concluded in 2001 with completion of the site's disposal cell, a 14-acre engineered structure designed to contain the site's waste resulting from the cleanup. So not only was it dismantling the buildings and putting all the buildings up there, not only was it scraping up the ground, not only was it decontaminating the water, it was taking all these things and being like, we can't go far with it because it's not, it's not a tub of something. It's in everything. So rather than trying to move it and risk contaminating something else, you're going to contaminate the trucks you're using. You're going to contaminate the people who are in it. They're like, let's just bury this shit here. And it worked. We're not the only one. I think there's one in Ohio that they put a park on top of, and it turned out that was a bad idea because tree roots. But, it's Ohio. It doesn't matter. The Weldon Spring site is open to the public as an excellent example of the beneficial reuse of former World War II explosive manufacturing and Cold War uranium metal processing facilities. The site's interpretive center opened in 2002 and communicates the site's history, cleanup activities, and current conditions. In 2020, the Weldon Spring site received the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Federal Facility Excellence in Site Reuse Award. The award recognizes noteworthy restorations and reuse of federal facilities through the innovative thinking and cooperation among federal agencies, states, tribes, local partners, and developers. So that is your basic history. It is a nuclear waste dump. But it's a very attractive one that you can come and visit. So this is the inside of the interpretive center when you're walking in. And it gives you the rundown. There's not much to it. It's, basic things about like the history of, the area. Its role in the Manhattan Project. It's got, uranium they ship shit here to, process to send out to California for Oppenheimer. So a lot of that came through here and was processed by the company Mallinckrodt. So the interpretive center not only talks about the history of it, but also kind of talks about the cell. This is the disposal cell. These are the layers of the disposal cell that are on top of it and underneath it. So on top, and then there's this in the center. You can see where it says waste, and then it's got the things on the bottom. And then also, so like every 5 years, the government goes through and does very extensive testing in the area to make sure that nothing is leaking out and not everything is staying where it should. So all of these things are supposed to be barriers to keep it there. It's a what are you gonna do? This is probably the best solution, I guess, that they could have come up with. It's contained. It is, even if it does leak out, it's only going to affect a very small area. Like it would not go up, it would go down. And sure, like not great, but it's not a spreading it across a open field kind of bad. So I don't know. In no way is nuclear waste in any way good. So this is the cell. I took a picture of it. And this is 41. The whole thing is like 41 acres, and it's 75 feet tall, and it's a big pile basically. You can see the slope that goes up, and then it's kind of flat. It still goes up. There is a little bit of an incline that goes to a peak, and there's 4 of these metal plaques that are kind of an all-weather placard that give you, more basic history. It's those metal plaques, I think, were put there when this was finished, and it gives like a rundown of everything of like how this works, and it's like here's the layers and how all the layers work. So that was like the very first thing that you could see, but now you can go to the interpretive center where they have air conditioning, and it's a little bit nicer, and it's not as windy. It's very windy up on top of there. So this is probably like my 3rd or 4th time climbing up there. It's not a hike or anything. It's an inclined staircase that takes you up on top, gives you a really nice panoramic view around you, and it's a nice little stop off. There was actually a plant vendor sale going on at the time. We got some frozen custard. It was a really really nice little outing. The only downside was the electrical chargers were not plugged in, so we couldn't juice up, and we had to use the devil's piss, known as gasoline, to get home. So here's a little shot of one of my stickers, the Ray Cat adoption program, and here is a sign. So these, I'm going to tell you guys, this is coming out on Monday. These signs are up in the store on Tuesday morning. go. Actually, you know what? No, today they're going to be. I'm going to put them out. If you watch this before Tuesday, then you will get a chance to get down on one of these. I'm releasing small batches. I only have so many of these. I've been getting these signs from Joanne, and Joanne is kaput. They're no more. 5 days they're going to be closed out completely. So I've been going last couple of days and snatching up the last couple of things I can find. These signs are really nice. I really like these. Normally I don't buy unfinished blanks. I like to reuse stuff, but these were like $2 a piece, so it was pretty nice deal. But you're gonna pay a little bit more than $2 for it because you're gonna get all of this really cool home decor that you're gonna be able to put up and make people say, "What the fuck's the matter with you?" All right, so that's the slideshow. This week, the Columbo episode should have come out on Patreon, patreon.com. Hell of a way to die. Where you should be getting all of our bonus stuff that we've got. I've got something coming up with my dad. My father has been told by one of his children, not children, but one of his nieces and nephews that he needs to start recording his life story. And my father's just like, I don't know how to do that. And I said, I have perfect thing for that. It's called a podcast where I ask you questions and we talk about those things. So looking forward to doing that. I can finally do, in like 8 years of podcasting, I think I've done face-to-face recording once with Jason Kander. I think that's it. This is the only time I can remember doing a recording with somebody that I was actually looking at face-to-face in the same room. So, so this will be interesting. I have the thing is you always got to buy like podcast mixing equipment. I don't want to buy mixing equipment. I'm not going to mix anything. So I have 2 laptops and I have 2 microphones, and that's what we're going to do. And put him on one side of the table, put me on the other side of the table. Probably do him over at his house. So good luck to my producers who are going to have to listen to it. Thankfully, though, he doesn't have dogs and cats and children or anything like that running around the house. So. So we're looking for, I don't know how many episodes I'm going to do with them. Those will probably go on, paid, but be free later. More than likely it'd be one of those things that I definitely want them to be out there for everybody, but I also sometimes want to give the Patreons a little squeeze, a little juice, a little something for their $5, a little extra. So keep that in mind. So thank you all for listening and watching. Keep in mind, whatahellofawaytodad.com. You're going to find those signs up there as you are listening to this. You can actually click down there in the comments and get to it, and you can see it and you can buy it if you are buying one of the 7 I think I'm going to be able to put up first. We're going to get there. It's going to be coming out in batches. But this first batch is just for you, for the YouTube crew. So thank you, everybody, for watching and listening, and we will talk to you next week.